Good evening, and welcome in Sleep Stories for Calm Mind and Relax Your Body. Tonight, we will explore the life of Elon Musk. But do not worry, this is not a tale told with speed or urgency. Before we begin, let us set the space around us. Imagine, if you will, a quiet night sky above you. Millions of stars shimmer like silver dust scattered across velvet darkness. The air is cool, soft, gentle against your skin. The ground beneath you feels steady, safe, unmoving. You are supported. You are cared for. You are safe to rest. In this space, you may let go. You may release the worries of the day. You may soften the grip of thought. You may sink into stillness, because the story will carry you. It will hold you like a soft blanket. It will whisper you toward dreams. Elon Musk's story begins not with rockets nor with cars, but with a boy curious about the world, a boy fascinated by books, by stories, by the glowing screen of an early computer. Like Warren Buffett's curiosity for numbers, Elon's curiosity began with imagination. He read science fiction. He dreamed of distant planets. He wondered about inventions not yet created. This boyhood curiosity became the spark, and the spark became a flame, and the flame grew into a fire that would shape industries and stir imaginations around the world. And yet, beneath the fire, there was always stillness. Moments of sitting quietly with books, moments of typing slowly on a keyboard, moments of gazing up at the sky. This is where we will begin, with the child who dreamed. The invitation. So tonight, as we prepare to step into Chapter 1, I invite you to join me on this gentle journey, not as a student of business alone, but as a traveler, as a dreamer, as a listener ready for rest. Allow Elon Musk's story to wash over you like waves. Allow the details to unfold slowly, like petals of a flower opening to the morning light. You need not hold on to every word. You need not follow every fact. Simply let the rhythm of the story, the calm pace of the voice, guide you into stillness. If your mind drifts, let it drift. If your eyes grow heavy, let them close. If sleep comes, welcome it warmly, for that is the purpose of this story: to calm, to soothe, to guide you into deep and peaceful rest. Gentle transition. The stage is set. The night sky waits above. The quiet road of the story stretches before us. Ahead lies the childhood of Elon Musk, a boy in South Africa, with books in his hands, dreams in his mind, and a spark in his heart. But before we begin that first chapter, take one more slow breath. Inhale deeply, exhale softly, and allow yourself to drift, carried by calmness, into the beginning of this journey. The story begins far from the noise of Silicon Valley, far from the skyscrapers of New York, far from the humming factories of Tesla or the towering rockets of SpaceX. It begins instead beneath the wide, golden skies of South Africa. The air there is warm, often filled with the scent of dry earth, the rustle of wind through tall grasses, and the distant calls of birds across the plains. It is here, on Jeanette Windier, in 1971, that a boy was born, a boy named Elon Musk. A house of contrastline grew up in Pretoria, a city both calm and complex. His home life, too, was a mixture of contrasts. His mother, May Musk, was a woman of beauty and strength, a model and a dietitian. She carried herself with quiet grace. She worked hard, often holding multiple jobs, and she raised her children with a mixture of independence and resilience. His father, Elon Musk, was an engineer, a man of invention and precision, whose mind often lingered on machines and projects. Between these two influences, Elon inherited a balance, the creativity of his mother, and the technical focus of his father. But life at home was not always soft or easy. There were shadows as well as light, moments of difficulty, moments that shaped Elon into a child who often turned inward, who found comfort not in people, but in ideas, in imagination, and in books. From the very beginning, Elon was different. Where other children shouted and played, He often sat quietly, lost in thought. Sometimes he appeared so absorbed, so far away in his mind, that his parents worried something might be wrong. There were moments when they feared he could not even hear them, but he did hear. He was simply elsewhere, wandering through the vast landscapes of imagination, through numbers, through ideas, through the quiet realms of thought. At school, this made him stand apart. He was not the loudest boy, nor the most athletic. Instead, he was the boy with a book always in his hand, his eyes tracing lines of text while the world around him faded into quiet background. Asterisk books became Ellen's first companions. Science fiction filled his young mind with distant worlds and grand adventures. He read about space travel, about civilizations beyond the stars, about inventions not yet real. Through these stories, the world seemed bigger, more filled with possibility. He also devoured encyclopedias, reading page after page, absorbing facts about history, science, and technology. His curiosity was boundless. He wanted to know why things worked, how things worked, and whether they could work differently, better, more beautifully. Each book became a doorway. Each page became a window to another world. And Elon walked through those doorways eagerly, his imagination stretching farther and farther with every passing day. But Elon was not content only to dream. Even as a boy, he wanted to build, to create. At the age often he discovered computers, the glowing screen, the clacking keys, the mysterious world of code and programs. It was like a hidden universe, one that spoke directly to his curious mind. Soon, he was teaching himself how to program. Patiently, line by line, he learned the language of computers. And before long, he had created his first game, a simple space-themed program called BLA Star. It was not complex, not compared to today's standards. But for a boy of just 12 years old, it was extraordinary. He sold the code to a magazine for $500. And in that moment, a truth revealed itself. His ideas could not only entertain, they could also create value. They could shape his future. But the outside world was not always kind. At school, Elon was often bullied. His quiet nature, his small size, and his unusual interests made him a target. There were times he was beaten, pushed down, hurt. Once, he was hospitalized after a particularly harsh attack. These experiences left marks, not only on his body, but on his heart. Yet even in pain, he turned inward again, to books, to computers, to ideas that no one could take from him. Perhaps it was in these moments, in the loneliness and struggle, that the seed of resilience was planted for later in life. When faced with setbacks, failures, and criticism, he would return to that seed. He would rise again, just as he did after the bullies pushed him down. At home, his mother May encouraged independence. She did not coddle her children. She taught them to care for themselves, to solve their own problems, to push forward even when things were difficult. This independence became part of Elon's character. He learned to keep moving, to keep trying, to keep reaching. His father, meanwhile, exposed him to engineering and machinery. There were projects, machines, and tools that sparked new questions in Elon's mind. And though his relationship with his father was complicated, the exposure to technical thinking left a lasting mark. But perhaps most powerful of all was Elon's fascination with the night sky. In South Africa, far from the haze of crowded cities, the stars shine brightly. Each night, millions of lights shimmer in the darkness, stretching endlessly above. As a boy, Elon would look up, eyes wide, and wonder, what were those distant lights? Were there worlds beyond them? Could humans one day travel there? Could he? These questions did not leave him. They became the gentle hum beneath every other thought, the rhythm beneath every other dream. And though he could not yet know it, those same stars would one day guide his path, pulling him toward rockets, toward Mars, toward the dream of making humanity a multiplanetary species. By the time Elon was a teenager, South Africa felt both familiar and confining. He longed for more opportunity, more freedom, more possibility. He dreamed of America, a place he believed was the center of invention, of innovation, of new beginnings. But he was still young, still under the roof of his parents, still far from the path he imagined. And yet, deep within him, there was a restlessness, a whisper that said, "There is more waiting for you beyond these borders." That whisper would grow louder until it pushed him across continents toward new lands, new risks, new beginnings. And so, in this first chapter, we see Elon Musk not as the billionaire innovator, not as the man who would reshape industries, but simply as a boy with books in his hands, stars in his eyes, and dreams too large for the world around him. A boy shaped by curiosity, by resilience, by imagination. A boy preparing quietly, unknowingly, for a journey that would take him across oceans, across industries, across history itself. The boy who gazed at the stars in South Africa was growing older. By the mid-1980s. Elon Musk was no longer a small child with books piled at his bedside. He was a teenager now, restless, curious, and aware that his world was both wide and yet too small. The streets of Pretoria were familiar. The schools were familiar. The days moved in steady rhythm. But Elon felt a whisper within him, a pull, a longing. That whisper told him, "There is more waiting for you far away." Across oceans, across continents. In Elon's imagination, one place stood brighter than all the rest. It was not a place he had visited yet, but one he had read about in books, seen in films, and heard described in stories. That place was America. To him, America was not just a country. It was a symbol, the home of invention, the birthplace of innovation, the land where great companies rose, where bold ideas became reality, where the future was always reaching forward. For a boy who dreamed of rockets and computers, for a teenager who wanted to change the world, America seemed like the center of possibility. But there was a problem. Elon was still in South Africa, and the journey to America was long, complicated, and uncertain. Yet Elon was clever. He knew that his mother, May, had been born in Canada, and through her, he could claim Canadian citizenship. It would not be America, not at first, but it would be a doorway, a bridge across the ocean, a first step toward the life he imagined. And so, while other boys his age thought of sports or parties, Elon began quietly planning. He would go to Canada. He would study there. He would work there. And then, from there, he would make his way to the United States. It was a bold plan for someone so young. But boldness, as the world would one day see, was already woven into the fabric of Elon Musk. Leaving home in 1989, at just 17 years old, Elon left South Africa. Imagine for a moment how that must have felt. A teenager, barely grown, boarding a plane that would carry him across continents, leaving behind the streets he knew, the home of his childhood, the voices of family and friends. The engines roared, the plane lifted, and below him the land of South Africa shrank smaller and smaller, until it was only memory. Ahead lay Canada, a new country, a new beginning. For many, such a journey would be frightening. For Elon, it was freedom, the first step on the path he had long imagined. Canada welcomed him with cold air and new challenges. At first, Elon stayed with relatives. He worked odd jobs, cleaning, shoveling, anything that would earn him money. He was not wealthy. He did not arrive with comfort or luxury. He arrived with determination. There were times when he slept on couches, when he scraped by with little, but none of that mattered. He was where he needed to be, closer to America, closer to the dream. Queen's Universitician, Elon enrolled at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. It was here that he began to shape himself more fully. He was no longer just the quiet boy from South Africa. He was a young man with ambition burning brightly within him. He studied economics and physics, his mind eager to stretch in multiple directions at once. Economics gave him an understanding of markets, of money, of how systems of value and trade moved like hidden currents beneath society. Physics gave him something deeper, an understanding of the fundamental laws of the universe. Equations that explained the motion of planets, the flow of energy, the structure of matter itself. For Elon, this combination was perfect. It gave him both the tools to build businesses and the understanding to dream of technology that could reshape the world. It was also at Queen's that Elon met Justine Wilson, a fellow student who would one day become his wife, though their relationship would later change. In these early years, their bond reflected Elon's growing ability to connect, to share his dreams, to find companionship even in the midst of relentless ambition. But even as his social world expanded, he remained above all else focused, determined. A leap to America after 2 years at Queen's University, Elon made another bold move. He transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, in the United States. Finally, he was in America, the land he had long dreamed of. At Penn, he pursued 2 degrees, one in economics from the Wharton School, and another in physics. His days were full of classes, his nights often filled with projects, reading, discussions about the future, and even here, in the halls of the university, his ambition stood out. He was not content with small dreams. He spoke openly of space, of technology, of changing the world. Some might have thought him unrealistic. Others might have smiled politely at his grand ideas. But Elon did not mind. For him, dreaming small was never an option. Renting the house there is a story from his time at Penn that captures both his ambition and his creativity. Together with a friend, Elon rented a large house off campus. But instead of using it simply as a home, he turned it into something more. On weekends, the house became a nightclub. Students filled the rooms, music echoed through the walls. And Quiet Elon was suddenly running a business. It was a way to make money, yes, but also a way to experiment, to test ideas, to see how even a simple space, with vision and effort, could be transformed. It was, in many ways, a small rehearsal for what was to come, internships and ideas during summers. Elon sought opportunities that aligned with his growing interests. He interned at technology companies, exploring software, energy, and possible careers. But more than the jobs themselves, what stayed with him was a sense of scale. He realized that the world was full of problems waiting to be solved. Energy, transportation, space, communication, everywhere he looked, there were gaps, doors that others had not yet opened. And in his mind, he began to ask the questions that would define his life. How can I make the biggest difference? Where can I apply my energy to change the future most profoundly? By the time Elon graduated in 1995, the world was entering a new era. The internet was emerging. A digital revolution was beginning. And at the heart of it all was a place called Silicon Valley. Elon looked toward it with fascination. He saw it as the epicenter of invention, a place where bold ideas became companies, where companies became industries, and where industries reshaped the world. And so, with degrees in hand and ambition alive within him, Elon Musk set his sights westward, toward the first true test of his vision. Transition. And so ends this chapter of Elon's life, the years of crossing oceans, of leaving home, of stepping into universities and classrooms, of studying, of dreaming, of building the foundation for everything to come. He had left South Africa behind. He had reached North America. He had walked the campuses of Queen's and Penn. He had begun to build businesses in small, creative ways. But all of this was only preparation. Ahead lay the internet boom. Ahead lay startups. Ahead lay the first sparks of the companies that would one day change his life and ours. The year was 1995. Elon Musk had finished his studies at the University of Pennsylvania. He had 2 degrees in his hands, one in physics, the other in economics. But far more important than degrees was the fire that burned quietly inside him. It was the fire of ambition. The fire of a restless mind that wanted to build, to create, to solve great problems. The world was on the edge of change. The internet was new, still strange to most people. Few truly understood what it could become. Most saw it as a curiosity, a toy for hobbyists, a passing trend. But Elon saw something different. He saw possibility. He saw transformation. He saw a future where the internet would connect people, businesses, and ideas in ways that were almost unimaginable. Asterisk and so, Elon set his sights on California, on Silicon Valley, the heart of the technology revolution. He arrived with little more than hope and determination. Not much money, not many connections, just a belief that here, in this place where ideas flowed like rivers, he could begin. His brother, Kimball Musk, joined him. The two shared not only blood, but a hunger for possibility. Together, they dreamed of building something real, something that could stand in the midst of this digital revolution. The idea at the time, newspapers were still the kings of information. If you wanted to find a business, you flipped through the yellow pages. If you wanted directions, you unfolded a paper map. But Elon wondered, what if this information could live online? What if you could open a computer screen, type in a name, and instantly see a business, its address, its location on a digital map? It seems ordinary to us now. We carry such things in the palm of our hands. But in 1995, this idea was extraordinary. Together with Kimball, Elon began working to turn this vision into reality. They called their company Zip2. And like so many great stories, it began not in gleaming towers, but in the humblest of places. So small that Elon slept on the floor. There was no bed, no comfort, just a sleeping bag rolled out after long nights of coding. In the mornings, he would walk to a nearby YMCA to shower. Then he would return, sit back down at the computer, and continue building day after day. The hum of the computer, the glow of the monitor, the steady tapping of keys. This was his world. Elon worked with a kind of intensity that few could match. He coded for hours without pause. He ate little. He slept less. Kimball would sometimes remind him to rest, to eat, to step outside. But Elon's focus was unshakable. He believed in the idea. He believed in the company. And he believed that if he simply pushed hard enough, the world would notice. It was not glamorous. There were no lavish offices, no riches, no fame, only two brothers. Only two brothers, a few borrowed desks, and a dream. Asterisk slowly, their efforts began to take shape. Zip2's software allowed newspapers to provide online city guides, with maps, directions, and business listings. For the first time, users could sit at a computer and search for information that once required thick books. And folded maps. It was simple, but revolutionary. And soon, newspapers began to take notice. One deal came, then another, and then more. Each small success built upon the last, like stepping stones across a river. Asterisk, but building a company requires more than code. It requires money. It requires resources. And so, Elon and Kimball sought investors. This was not easy. They were young, they were unproven, and the internet was still seen as risky, uncertain, perhaps even foolish. Yet their persistence paid off. Investors began to provide funding. Slowly, Zip2 grew stronger. Elon was no longer coding alone in the night. Now, there were employees. Now, there was a team. Now, the company had momentum. Asterisk, but with investors came something else. Conflict. Elon, still in his 20s, was bold. He wanted to lead, to direct, to make every decision. But the investors were cautious. They questioned his lack of experience. They brought in seasoned managers. They pushed him aside in certain decisions. This was painful. It was his company, his idea, his sweat and sleepless nights. And yet, he had to watch as others took the wheel. It was a lesson. A hard one, that vision alone was not enough. That in business, control often slips into the hands of those who provide the money. Asterisk despite the challenges. Zip2 continued to grow. And then, in 1999, came the turning point. The computer company Compaq purchased Zip2 for nearly $300 million. Elon's share was around $22 million. For the first time, he was not just a dreamer, not just a programmer sleeping on an office floor. He was wealthy, independent, capable of building on a larger scale. And yet, as the money arrived, something became clear. For Elon, the wealth was not an end. It was not the goal. It was only fuel. Fuel for the next dream. Fuel for the next company. Fuel for the larger visions that still burned within him. Asterisk looking back, Zip2 was not Elon Musk's most famous company. It was not Tesla. It was not SpaceX. It was not the projects that would capture the world's attention. But it was the beginning. It was proof that his vision could become reality. It was proof that relentless effort could turn code into contracts, contracts into partnerships, partnerships into millions. It was also a lesson in humility, in compromise, in the sometimes painful relationship between founders and investors. Above all, it was a doorway, the first great doorway that opened toward everything that would follow. Asterisk the year was 1999. Elon Musk was only 28 years old. He had just sold his first company, Zip2, from a sleeping bag on the floor of a small office. He had risen to the life of a young millionaire. Most people, after earning $20 million before the age of 30, would slow down. They might travel, buy a home, take time to celebrate. But Elon's mind did not rest. It never rested. For him, wealth was not the destination. It was a tool, a key to unlock bigger, bolder dreams. And so, as the world prepared to enter a new millennium, Elon prepared to build his next company. Asterisk the internet was changing rapidly. More people were logging on. Businesses were beginning to explore online opportunities. But there was one problem that kept appearing again and again. Money. Sending money online was clumsy, unreliable, and often unsafe. People could not easily pay for things on the internet. There was no universal system. Elon saw this gap, this flaw in the growing digital world. And once again, he saw a way to fill it. He envisioned a company that would make money move as easily as sending an email. Fast, simple. BORDERLESS. It would not just be for businesses. It would be for everyone. A world where money could flow across the internet like water. And so, in March of 1999, Elon founded a company he called X.com. The name was mysterious, a little futuristic, and very Elon. It carried with it the sound of possibility, of something bold, something limitless. X.com's single quotes S mission was simple but daring, to revolutionize banking and payments on the internet. At first, even his own employees found the name strange. It sounded like a secret code, but Elon believed it carried the kind of intrigue that would make people curious. And beyond the name was the vision, the idea that one day, this platform could become the financial center of the internet. Asterisk like Zip2 before it. X.com began in modest offices, with a small but passionate team. Elon worked tirelessly, coding, planning, strategizing. He spoke often of the future, of how this company would not just be another startup, but something transformational. He put much of his own fortune into it. He risked millions from the Zip2 sale because he believed that if this worked, it would be bigger than anything he had done before. Asterisk meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, another startup was working on a similar idea. This company was called Confinity. It had been founded by Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, and others. Their focus was slightly different, enabling payments through handheld devices, particularly the new generation of Palm Pilots. But soon, their technology shifted toward secure online payments, a vision that overlapped directly with X. Competition was inevitable. To companies with almost the same mission, racing to become the leader in online payments. Asterisk the battle between X.com and Confinity could have destroyed one or both companies. They were spending money fast, fighting for market share, trying to win customers. But in March of 2000, a different path was chosen. X.com and Confinity merged. Two rivals became one, and from that union, a new name emerged, a name that would soon be known around the world, the growth of PayPal. From the moment of its birth, PayPal grew quickly. It offered something people desperately needed, a safe, easy way to send money online. Users began adopting it in large numbers. eBay sellers, in particular, found it invaluable. They could accept payments instantly from buyers, without the delays of checks or money orders. It spread like wildfire. Within months, PayPal was one of the fastest growing online services in the world. Elon Musk served as the company's CEO after the merger. He pushed for bold expansion. He believed PayPal could become a full online bank, offering not just payments, but loans, savings, credit, everything traditional banks offered, but faster, smarter, and entirely online. But this vision was ambitious, perhaps too ambitious for the young company. Some executives and board members worried. They thought Elon was moving too quickly, risking too much. And then, in the midst of this tension, something happened. In late 2000, while Elon was away on a rare vacation, the board of directors voted to replace him as CEO. It was a painful blow. The company he had poured his fortune and energy into was suddenly no longer under his control. Peter Thiel took over as CEO. Elon remained the largest shareholder, but he was no longer in charge of daily decisions. For many, this would have been crushing. For Elon, it was a lesson, another reminder, as with Zip2, that vision and ownership could sometimes be separated. But even without him at the helm, PayPal continued to grow. PayPal became not just a successful company, but a legendary one. The team that built it, Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk, and others, would go on to create or fund some of the most important companies of the next generation. They became known as the PayPal Mafia, a group of innovators whose influence would ripple across Silicon Valley for decades. And at the center of that story was Elon Musk. The eBay Celine 2002. PayPal reached its defining moment. The online auction giant eBay purchased PayPal for $1.5 billion in stock. Elon's personal share was around $180 million. He was not yet 40. He had founded two companies, sold both, and now had a fortune that could fund almost anything he wanted. Too many. This would be enough for a lifetime, a reason to retire, to live comfortably, to stop. But Elon Musk was only just beginning. PayPal was more than just money. It was proof that Elon's instincts were right, that he could see opportunities others overlooked, that he could build companies not just from ideas, but from sheer persistence. And it also taught him lessons about leadership, about trust, about the turbulence of startups. Most of all, it gave him the resources to finally chase the dreams that had lived in his mind since childhood, dreams of space, of energy, of reshaping the future of humanity. The year was 2003. The dot-com bubble had burst. Many internet companies had disappeared, and yet Elon Musk remained stronger, wealthier, and more restless than ever. He had helped create PayPal. He had sold it for a fortune. And now, his eyes turned towards something far larger. Not just money, not just convenience, but the very future of energy, transportation, and the planet itself. A world dependent on oil at that time. The world was still deeply dependent on oil. Gasoline cars filled every street. Exhaust filled the skies. Climate scientists were warning about rising emissions, about a warming Earth, about the dangers ahead. And yet, few were listening. Few were imagining alternatives. Electric cars had been tried before, but they were weak, slow, and uninspiring. A curiosity, perhaps, but not a revolution. Most of the world believed electric cars would never succeed. But Elon Musk believed differently. In 2003, Two engineers, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, founded a small startup. They called it Tesla Motors. Their dream was bold, to build a sleek, fast, desirable electric sports car. Not a clunky machine, not a compromise, but a car that could make people want electric, not settle for it. When Elon Musk learned about Tesla, he was intrigued. This was exactly the kind of vision he loved, difficult, unlikely, but world-changing if it worked. And so, he became one of Tesla's first major investors. He poured millions into the company. But more than money, he gave it his energy, his leadership, his restless drive. Tesla's first project was the Roadster, an all-electric sports car that could rival gas-powered machines in speed and performance. It would not just prove electric cars were possible. It would prove they could be exciting, desirable, cool for years. Tesla's small team worked tirelessly. They faced endless technical challenges. Batteries overheated. Motors failed. But Elon pressed forward. Failure, to him, was not the end. It was simply a step on the path. Long nights and heavy strain. By 2006, Tesla unveiled prototypes of the Roadster. The world was impressed. Here was an electric car that could drive over 200 miles on a charge and accelerate like a true sports car. But behind the scenes, Tesla was burning money. Delays mounted. Production problems grew. And tensions inside the company began to rise. Elon Musk's role shifted. He was no longer just an investor. He stepped deeper into decision-making, deeper into management, until eventually he became CEO. It was not an easy transition. There were arguments. There were departures. But Elon believed Tesla needed bold, decisive leadership if it was to survive. By 2008, Tesla was in serious trouble. The global financial crisis hit. Investors pulled back. Money was running out. The Roadster was nearly ready, but costs had spiraled. Some doubted Tesla would ever deliver. Others whispered that the company was doomed. Elon himself was stretched to the breaking point. He had also founded SpaceX by this time, and that company, too, was struggling after several rocket failures. His fortune, nearly $180 million from PayPal, was dwindling rapidly. He had poured almost all of it into SpaceX and Tesla. Friends warned him to stop, to step back, to protect what remained. But Elon refused. He believed in Tesla too deeply. If Tesla fails, he said, it will be because we did not try hard enough, not because the idea was impossible. In the final days of 2008, Tesla was nearly bankrupt. Employees feared their paychecks would not arrive. Suppliers threatened to walk away. But then, at the last possible moment, a deal was struck. Daimler, the German automaker, invested millions into Tesla. At the same time, a crucial government loan program helped provide support. Tesla survived. Barely. But it survived. The first deliveries in 2008. The first Tesla Roadsters reached customers. They were expensive. They were limited in number. But they worked. For the first time in history, drivers could own a sleek, high-performance electric car that truly competed with gasoline vehicles. It was not yet a revolution, but it was proof that the future Elon Musk had imagined was possible. Even as the Roadster began to roll out, Elon's mind was already moving forward. The Roadster was a beginning, but not enough. Tesla could not survive as a niche sports car maker. The goal was bigger, much bigger. Elon dreamed of a full lineup of electric cars, a sedan for families, an SUV for larger needs, and eventually an affordable car that millions could buy. It would be a long road, but the first step had been taken. Tesla's early years were a storm. Money problems, management battles, near-death moments. But through it all, there was a thread of persistence, a refusal to surrender, a belief that the world needed a better path, one that did not depend on oil, one that could protect the earth, one that could inspire. Elon Musk often said his goal was not simply to build a company. but to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, to push the world, however slowly, toward a cleaner future. And though many doubted him, though critics laughed, though competitors dismissed Tesla as a fad, the company endured. Asterisk, as the decade closed, Tesla stood battered but alive. The Roadster was on the roads, and Elon Musk was more determined than ever. The next challenge would be even greater: to bring electric cars to the mainstream, to prove Tesla was not just a novelty, but a force that could change the entire auto industry. But for now, in this chapter of his journey, the image remains of a man pouring everything he had, money, energy, and sleepless nights, into a dream that most thought impossible, and against all odds, the dream survived. Asterisk, the year was 2002. Elon Musk had already built two companies. He had made millions. He had proven himself in the world of software and finance. But now, his gaze lifted upward, far beyond the streets of California, beyond the clouds, beyond the blue sky. His heart turned once again toward a dream that had followed him since childhood, the dream of space. As a boy in South Africa, Elon would lie under the night sky. He would stare at the stars, each one burning with mystery. He read science fiction, tales of rockets and planets, of humans traveling far beyond Earth. And quietly, he wondered, why not us? Why not now? With wealth from PayPal in his hands, he decided it was time to answer those questions. A shocking realization: Elon first explored the idea of buying rockets. His thought was simple. Perhaps humanity could begin again, with small missions, small steps toward Mars. He traveled to Russia, hoping to purchase refurbished rockets. But the meetings were frustrating. The costs were outrageous. The deals unreliable. On the flight home, Elon's mind began to spin. If buying rockets was impossible, then perhaps the answer was different. What if we built them ourselves? It was a thought so bold, so outrageous, that most people would have dismissed it instantly. But Elon Musk was not most people. And so, in 2002, he founded Space Exploration Technologies, a company the world would come to know as SpaceX. Its mission was breathtakingly ambitious: to make space travel cheaper, more reliable, and ultimately, to pave the way for humans to live on other planets. Elon did not speak of small goals. He spoke of Mars. He spoke of building a future where humanity was not limited to one fragile Earth, but spread among the stars. A small warehouse, a big dream. SpaceX did not begin with grandeur. It began in a modest warehouse in El Segundo, California. A small group of engineers gathered, drawn by Elon's vision. They worked long hours, often 7 days a week. The challenges were immense. Building rockets was not like building software. Every part mattered, every detail carried weight, and failure was not just inconvenient. It was spectacular, explosive, and costly. Yet the team pressed forward, guided by Elon's unshakable belief that rockets could be built differently. Not with endless budgets and decades of delays, but with speed, with efficiency, with daring innovation. The first rocket SpaceX built was called the Falcon 1, small compared to NASA's giants, but powerful enough to test the company's vision. It was a slender rocket, delicate, fragile in appearance, and yet it carried with it the weight of Elon's fortune and the hopes of his young company. Years of effort poured into its design. Every bolt, every line of code, every piece of fuel. Finally, in 2006, Falcon 1 was ready for its first flight. Failure 1's rocket stood tall in the Marshall Islands. On a launch pad surrounded by the sea, the countdown began. Engines ignited, flames roared, and then, disaster. Just seconds into flight, a fuel leak caused the rocket to fail. It tumbled, broke apart, and fell into the ocean. The dream, it seemed, had crumbled in fire and smoke. But Elon did not give up. He called it a lesson, a step towards success, and he vowed to try again. A year later, in 2007, SpaceX tried once more. Falcon 1 launched into the sky. It climbed higher, faster. But again a failure. This time, the rocket shut down too early, falling back to Earth. Another explosion. Another heartbreak. To launches. 2 failures. And millions of dollars gone. Many outsiders laughed. Some declared SpaceX finished. But inside the company, the fire still burned. Failure 3 in 2008. With money running low, SpaceX prepared for a third attempt. This time, the team was more cautious, more meticulous. The rocket lifted off. It soared higher than before. But then, a stage separation failed. The rocket spun out of control and once again was lost. 3 failures, 3 disasters, and Elon Musk was nearly broke. He had poured everything into SpaceX. His PayPal fortune was vanishing. Tesla, too, was struggling. It was the darkest moment of his career, a time when everything seemed ready to collapse. He had also founded SpaceX by this time, and that company, too, was struggling after several rocket failures. His fortune, nearly $180 million from PayPal, was dwindling rapidly. He had poured almost all of it into SpaceX and Tesla. Friends warned him to stop, to step back, to protect what remained. But Elon refused. He believed in Tesla too deeply. If Tesla fails, he said, it will be because we did not try hard enough, not because the idea was impossible. The lifeline in the final days of 2008. Tesla was nearly bankrupt. Employees feared their paychecks would not arrive. Suppliers threatened to walk away. But then, at the last possible moment, a deal was struck. Daimler, the German automaker, invested millions into Tesla. At the same time, a crucial government loan program helped provide support. Tesla survived. Barely. But it survived. The first deliveries in 2008. The first Tesla Roadsters reached customers. They were expensive. They were limited in number. But they worked. For the first time in history, drivers could own a sleek, high-performance electric car that truly competed with gasoline vehicles. It was not yet a revolution, but it was proof that the future Elon Musk had imagined was possible. Beyond the Roadster, even as the Roadster began to roll out, Elon's mind was already moving forward. The Roadster was a beginning, but not enough. Tesla could not survive as a niche sports car maker. The goal was bigger, much bigger. Elon dreamed of a full lineup of electric cars, a sedan for families, an SUV for larger needs, and eventually, an affordable car that millions could buy. It would be a long road, but the first step had been taken. Tesla's early years were a storm. Money problems, management battles, near-death moments. But through it all, there was a thread of persistence, a refusal to surrender, a belief that the world needed a better path, one that did not depend on oil, one that could protect the earth, one that could inspire. Elon Musk often said his goal was not simply to build a company, but to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, to push the world, however slowly, toward a cleaner future. And though many doubted him, though critics laughed, though competitors dismissed Tesla as a fad, the company endured. As the decade closed, Tesla stood battered but alive. The Roadster was on the roads, and Elon Musk was more determined than ever. The next challenge would be even greater: to bring electric cars to the mainstream, to prove Tesla was not just a novelty, but a force that could change the entire auto industry. But for now, in this chapter of his journey, the image remains of a man pouring everything he had, money, energy, and sleepless nights, into a dream that most thought impossible, and against all odds, the dream survived. The year was 2002. Elon Musk had already built 2 companies. He had made millions. He had proven himself in the world of software and finance. But now, his gaze lifted upward, far beyond the streets of California, beyond the clouds, beyond the blue sky. His heart turned once again toward a dream that had followed him since childhood, the dream of space. The seed of a dream is a boy in South Africa, Elon would lie under the night sky. He would stare at the stars, each one burning with mystery. He read science fiction, tales of rockets and planets, of humans traveling far beyond Earth. And quietly, he wondered, why not us? Why not now? Decades later, with wealth from PayPal in his hands, he decided it was time to answer those questions. A shocking realization. Elon first explored the idea of buying rockets. His thought was simple. Perhaps humanity could begin again, with small missions. Small steps toward Mars. He traveled to Russia, hoping to purchase refurbished rockets. But the meetings were frustrating. The costs were outrageous. The deals unreliable. On the flight home, Elon's mind began to spin. If buying rockets was impossible, then perhaps the answer was different. What if we built them ourselves? It was a thought so bold, so outrageous, that most people would have dismissed it instantly. But Elon Musk was not most people, founding SpaceX and so. In 2002, he founded Space Exploration Technologies, a company the world would come to know as SpaceX. Its mission was breathtakingly ambitious, to make space travel cheaper, more reliable, and ultimately, to pave the way for humans to live on other planets. Elon did not speak of small goals. He spoke of Mars. He spoke of building a future where humanity was not limited to one fragile Earth, but spread among the stars. A small warehouse, a big dream. SpaceX did not begin with grandeur. It began in a modest warehouse in El Segundo, California. A small group of engineers gathered, drawn by Elon's vision. They worked long hours, often 7 days a week. The challenges were immense. Building rockets was not like building software. Every part mattered, every detail carried weight, and failure was not just inconvenient. It was spectacular, explosive, and costly. Yet the team pressed forward, guided by Elon's unshakable belief that rockets could be built differently. Not with endless budgets and decades of delays, but with speed, with efficiency, with daring innovation. The first rocket SpaceX built was called the Falcon 1, small compared to NASA's giants, but powerful enough to test the company's vision. It was a slender rocket, delicate, fragile in appearance, and yet it carried with it the weight of Elon's fortune and the hopes of his young company. Years of effort poured into its design. Every bolt, every line of code, every piece of fuel. Finally, in 2006, Falcon 1 was ready for its first flight. The rocket stood tall in the Marshall Islands on a launch pad surrounded by the sea. The countdown began. Engines ignited. Flames roared. And then, disaster. Just seconds into flight, a fuel leak caused the rocket to fail. It tumbled, broke apart, and fell into the ocean. The dream, it seemed, had crumbled in fire and smoke. But Elon did not give up. He called it a lesson, a step towards success, and he vowed to try again. Failure. A year later, in 2007, SpaceX tried once more. Falcon 1 launched into the sky. It climbed higher, faster. But again a failure. This time, the rocket shut down too early, falling back to Earth. Another explosion. Another heartbreak. To launches. 2 failures. And millions of dollars gone. Many outsiders laughed. Some declared SpaceX finished. But inside the company, the fire still burned. Failure 3 in 2008. With money running low, SpaceX prepared for a third attempt. This time, the team was more cautious, more meticulous. The rocket lifted off. It soared higher than before. But then, a stage separation failed. The rocket spun out of control and once again was lost. 3 failures, 3 disasters, and Elon Musk was nearly broke. He had poured everything into SpaceX. His PayPal fortune was vanishing. Tesla, too, was struggling. It was the darkest moment of his career. A time when everything seemed ready to collapse. The breaking point that summer of 2008. Elon faced a choice: give up and accept defeat, or risk everything. One last time. It was almost unbearable. Even his friends worried for him. He had invested nearly every dollar, nearly every ounce of strength. But Elon Musk chose to try again. There was no other option. He later said, "If we failed a fourth time, SpaceX would die." And so, on September 28, 2008, Falcon 1 stood once more on the launch pad. The air was heavy. The engineers held their breath. Years of work, years of heartbreak, all came down to this. The countdown reached 0. Engines ignited. The rocket roared skyward. Seconds passed. Minutes passed. Stage separation. Success. The rocket kept climbing. And then finally, after so many failures, so many broken nights, Falcon 1 reached orbit. Cheers erupted. Tears flowed. History was made. SpaceX became the first privately funded company to launch a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. Survival that same year, another miracle occurred. NASA awarded SpaceX a contract worth over $1.6 billion to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. The timing could not have been more perfect. With one success and one contract, SpaceX was saved from the edge of collapse. Elon had gambled everything, and against all odds, he had won. The story of SpaceX's early years is not one of easy triumph. It is a story of repeated failure, of rockets exploding, of nights filled with despair. But it is also a story of persistence, of refusing to give up, of believing that even when the world doubted, success was still possible. Elon Musk once said, "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." SpaceX was proof of that belief. And so, as this chapter closes, the image is clear. A slender rocket, rising into the dark sky, breaking free of Earth's grip, carrying not only fuel and steel, but the dreams of a man who refused to surrender. SpaceX had survived. And soon, it would not only survive, it would redefine what rockets could do. But for now, the story rests here, in the glow of that fourth flight, where fire met the stars, and a dream refused to die. Asterisk. By the late 2000s, Elon Musk was juggling worlds of fire and steel. SpaceX rockets struggled to survive. Tesla cars fought to prove they belonged. But in the midst of these battles, Elon's mind stretched once more toward a deeper question. What about the energy that powers our world? Because beneath his dreams of Mars and electric cars lay another, quieter concern. The Earth itself, the fragile blue home that carried all of humanity, the seed of an idea for years. Elon had spoken about sustainability, the need to end reliance on fossil fuels, the urgency of finding clean power, not just for cars, but for everything. And so, another vision formed, a dream of capturing sunlight, the endless river of energy that bathed the Earth each day, to build a future where every roof could be a generator, where homes could hum with clean power, drawn not from coal or oil, but from the sun itself. Enter SolarCity in 2006 with cousins Lyndon and Peter Rive. Elon Musk helped launch SolarCity. The company's mission was bold, to bring affordable solar power to millions of homes and businesses. Elon provided the early funding, the spark of vision, and a guiding belief that solar could be made simple. Not a luxury for the wealthy, but a tool for everyday families. A new way of thinking at the time. Solar panels were expensive. Few households could afford them. But SolarCity introduced a radical idea. Instead of buying panels outright, families could lease them. They would pay a monthly fee, often less than their old electricity bill. And in return, they would receive clean, renewable energy flowing from their own rooftops. This model was revolutionary. It lowered the barrier. It spread solar faster. And soon, SolarCity began to grow. The warmth of the Sun Imagine for a moment. A quiet suburban neighborhood. Houses lined up, each with gleaming panels soaking in sunlight. Each roof whispering, "I will not only shelter you, I will power you." For Elon, this was more than business. It was hope. A way of reshaping the very fabric of how humans lived. He often reminded people, The Earth receives enough solar energy in 1 hour to power the entire planet for a year. The only challenge is capturing it and storing it. Challenges in the shadows, but like every dream of Ellen's, the road was not smooth. Solarcity faced doubters. Some said solar was a passing trend. Others fought back with the power of oil and coal. Utilities pushed against the idea, fearing lost profits. The financial markets, too, were skeptical. And as Tesla consumed Ellen's focus, Solarcity sometimes drifted in the background, its struggles growing quietly, its debts mounting. Integration with Tesla at Elon saw energy and transportation as two sides of the same coin. An electric car was only as clean as the grid that charged it. And so, he imagined a marriage of ideas, Tesla cars, Tesla batteries, and Solarcity panels, all woven into one seamless vision. By 2016, Tesla formally acquired Solarcity, folding it into the greater company. Some called it reckless, others called it genius. But to Elon, it was simple. To move humanity forward, transportation and energy must walk hand in hand. One of the most striking ideas to come from this union was the solar roof. Not panels placed awkwardly on top of shingles, but shingles themselves made of glass, each one a solar cell. A home could now be beautiful and powerful at the same time. Sunlight falling silently on a roof, transformed into electricity, stored in sleek Powerwall batteries, ready to light homes, charge cars, and power lives, all without touching a drop of oil. As the years passed, Tesla Energy, born from Solarcity, began building not only roofs, but vast projects. Solar farms, energy storage systems, giant megapacks powering towns, islands, even nations. In places once chained to diesel generators. Tesla's solar and storage offered freedom, silence, clean air, a future not bound by smoke. When we look at Elon Musk's journey into energy, it is not filled with explosions like SpaceX or flashy cars like Tesla. It is quieter, gentler. The steady warmth of sunlight, the silent hum of stored power. It is the kind of vision that feels almost like a lullaby. A promise whispered on rooftops. The sun will rise tomorrow, and it will bring enough energy to keep our world alive. Transition. And so, as this chapter settles, imagine lying beneath a warm glow, a roof above you, not just protecting, but providing. Solar light captured, stored, and shared. The story of Solarcity reminds us, sometimes the greatest revolutions are not in fire or thunder, but in light. Soft, steady, endless. By now, Elon Musk was a man of many worlds. He had built rockets for the sky, cars for the road, solar panels for the rooftops, but still, his thoughts wandered elsewhere, to something more intimate, something closer than the stars above, or the earth beneath our feet. He began to wonder, what about the mind itself? The spark of concern. Elon often spoke of the future, of artificial intelligence, machines that could think, that could learn, that could perhaps surpass us one day. And though he admired this progress, he also feared it. He worried that AI, unchecked, might grow too powerful, might leave humanity behind. And so, a question bloomed inside him. What if humans could keep pace? What if our minds could merge with technology rather than fall behind it? The birth of Neuralink in 2016. This question took shape as a new company. Its mission was breathtaking, to build devices so small, so delicate, that they could connect directly to the human brain. At first, the goal seemed medical, helping people who suffered from paralysis, restoring sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf. But beyond that, lay a vision of true symbiosis. A future where humans and machines could think together, learn together, grow together. A gentle description imaging. For a moment, a thread, thinner than a human hair. So fine, so delicate, that it could be placed gently into the brain without pain, without harm. Now imagine thousands of these threads, each carrying signals, listening to the quiet hum of neurons, translating thought into data. translating data into action. A mind, once silent, could speak again. A body, once still, could move again. This is the dream of Neuralink. The early years were filled with research. Neuroscientists and engineers worked side by side, designing robots that could perform surgeries with the precision of a craftsman, the steadiness of a machine. In 2020, Neuralink revealed its first public demonstration. A pig named Gertrude trot across a pan, her brain signals being read in real time. Every sniff, every step, every curious motion of her snout lit up as patterns on a screen. It was not science fiction. It was real. And yet, it was only the beginning. Human possibilities and spoke softly, but with conviction, about what Neuralink could become, helping paraplegic patients control computers with their minds, allowing those who lost speech to communicate again, perhaps one day, restoring memories, and beyond medicine, a vision even more daring, a world where humans could share thoughts as easily as words, where knowledge could flow directly from one mind to another. It was a dream vast in scale, and still far away, but for Elon, it was worth pursuing. Of course, not everyone agreed. Some raised ethical concerns. What about privacy of thought? What about control? Would such power be safe? Would it be fair? And others wondered if the technology could ever truly work. If the mind, so delicate, so mysterious, could really be bridged by wires and code. But Elon, as always, chose persistence. He reminded people that every great advance once seemed impossible. And if Neuralink could even help one person walk again, one person see again, wasn't that worth the risk? When we pause here, in the story of Neuralink, the mood feels different. Less fiery than rockets, less shiny than cars, less warm than solar light. This is a story of silence, of neurons firing in the dark, of thoughts unspoken, of a technology that whispers rather than shouts. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest frontiers are not in outer space, but within, inside the fragile universe of the human mind. Transition. And so, as this chapter comes to rest, imagine a stillness, a soft hum, deep inside your own head, signals dancing gently like fireflies on a summer night. Neuralink's story is still being written, its future uncertain, but its dream, to heal, to restore, to connect, offers a vision of hope. Asterisk. The years had passed. The struggles of PayPal, the battles of Tesla, the failures and triumphs of SpaceX, the warmth of SolarCity, and the daring dream of Neuralink. All had shaped Elon Musk's path. But there was one vision, one dream, that never left him. A dream older than Tesla, older than SpaceX, older even than his fortune. It was the dream of Mars, the ancient calling as a boy in South Africa. Elon would press his face against the window at night. He would look up at the stars, the endless dots of light spread across the sky. Among them was Mars, a small, rusty red glow, quiet and distant. Even then, he felt it was calling, not just to him, but to all of humanity, calling us to reach, to go further, to survive beyond the cradle of Earth. Why Mars? For Elon, Mars was more than a planet. It was hope, a backup for humanity, a place where civilization could live on, even if Earth someday faltered. It was also inspiration, proof that humans were not bound to one world forever, that we could step into the stars, not as dreamers, but as builders. The starship visioned, so came the boldest idea of all, a rocket. Not small like Falcon 1, not even mighty like Falcon 9, but vast, towering. Unlike anything humanity had built before. It would be called Starship. A name simple, but powerful. For it was not just a rocket. It was a ship for the stars. Fully reusable, capable of carrying 100 people, strong enough to leave Earth, safe enough to land on Mars. A machine not for one mission, but for thousands. A bridge between planets. Building the impossible at first, it seemed absurd. A rocket taller than skyscrapers? A spacecraft built not from exotic metals, but shining stainless steel? Critics scoffed. Some laughed. Others dismissed it as science fiction. But in the quiet coastal town of Boca Chica, Texas, a place soon renamed Starbase, the future began to rise. Piece by piece, ring by ring, the Starship prototypes took shape. Gleaming cylinders, stacked higher and higher still. The early tests were rough. Prototypes rose into the sky, wobbled, and fell back down. Some exploded in fire. Others crashed in silence. But each failure taught something new. Each attempt brought progress. And soon, Starship was leaping higher, flying farther, landing gently on its own legs. A spectacle both strange and beautiful, like watching a skyscraper float back to Earth. Toward the moon and Marcelon's vision stretched further still. NASA awarded contracts for Starship to serve as a lander on the moon, helping humanity return there for the first time in decades. But beyond the moon was Mars. Elon spoke of sending the first ships, cargo missions at first, then crews, building habitats, greenhouses, small towns, and one day, a city beneath the red sky. A lullaby of the future. Close your eyes and imagine it. The year is far ahead. You step out of a ship onto soft red soil. The sky above is tinted pink, the horizon wide and endless. In the distance, domes glisten, homes filled with light, with laughter, with the hum of life. Children run in low gravity, their footsteps light. Fields of green grow inside glass, fed by sunlight, nourished by water drawn from beneath the ground. And above, the stars shine brighter than ever, not as distant mysteries, but as destinations yet to come. Critics and believers some still say it cannot be done, that Mars is too harsh, too far, too unforgiving, and perhaps they are right. Perhaps the dream is too vast. But Elon Musk reminds us, so too was electricity once. So too was flight. So too were rockets themselves. The future belongs to those who refuse to give up. As this final chapter rests, we see Elon not just as a man of wealth, not just as an inventor, but as a dreamer. A dreamer who insists that dreams must not stay in books or in childhood bedrooms, but must be built, launched, and lived. Transition. And so, the story settles with this image. A gleaming starship, standing tall at dawn. Engines quiet for now, but waiting for the countdown. Waiting for the day when humans will step aboard and leave not just footprints, but entire futures on other worlds. Asterisk. And so, the story comes to rest. From a quiet boy in South Africa reading books by candlelight, to a man building rockets, cars, solar panels, and dreams too vast to measure. Elon Musk's journey has carried us across decades, across failures and triumphs, across earth and sky, all the way to the red sands of Mars. The threads of the story saw a boy who loved stories grow into a man who wrote his own. We saw fortunes made, fortunes lost, and fortunes risked again, all for visions larger than himself. We saw failures, rockets tumbling, companies near collapse. But we also saw resilience, the quiet strength to rise again. We saw sunlight captured on rooftops, energy stored for nights to come. We saw cars glide in silence, changing how we move. We saw whispers of the mind merging with machines, and rockets lifting us toward the stars. What does it all mean? Perhaps it is this, that dreams matter. That even the most impossible vision, whether it is of reusable rockets, of cities on Mars, of a future powered by the sun, can be reached, if pursued with courage, persistence, and belief. And even if not all of it comes true, the attempt itself moves humanity forward. One step, one launch, one dream at a time. The soothing horizontal. As this story settles in your mind, imagine a horizon. It may be the golden horizon of dawn on Earth, or the soft red horizon of Mars. It stretches endlessly before you, calm, filled with possibility. This is the gift of stories like Elon Musk's. Not just inspiration, but a reminder that tomorrow is wide open, that each of us, in our own way, is a dreamer. 2. A final lullaby, so breathe deeply now. Let your body sink into rest. Let the journey fade gently, like stars dissolving into morning light. You have traveled far tonight, through childhood wonder, through battles with failure, through triumphs of invention, through visions of space and Mars. Now it is time to rest. Time to dream your own dreams. Time to let sleep carry you into the quiet universe within. Good night, dreamer. May your rest be deep. May your dreams be bright. And may you awaken tomorrow with your own horizon of possibility waiting for you.